Hi, Dion Johnson here, and I'm an executive coach, and I'm the leader and the founder of Woman Leader Global, a women's leadership development firm that assists and helps midlife women mostly in senior leadership positions all around the UK and internationally to thrive and to overcome their challenges so that they can move on to be powerful, awesome leaders that they have the potential to be and that they were born to be, and that it's actually the time in history that they need to be. So this presentation is called I Struggle, and I really want to welcome you to it. I want you to think about what you're struggling with right now as you listen to this presentation. I'm assuming that you got here because of the title. Something in the title attracted you. And so I'm going to make an assumption that you're either struggling right now or with something professionally, or something personally that's affecting you professionally, or you have in the past struggled, or you anticipate that sometime in the future you're going to struggle. But actually, we're talking about overcoming struggles on this call, and you're really, really welcome to this gathering of really brilliant women all around the world who care to overcome so that they can move on. Okay, so let's see. So get particular about what it is that you're struggling with. What is it that what is it? What are you struggling with? Here are the 4 common areas of struggle that I'm seeing when I work with clients. And even in my own life, like all of these struggles here that I'm going to be sharing with you, I know every single one of them personally, right? But they're the kind of common themes. Of course, every woman is individual. You are a unique individual. So you'll have your story, you'll have your nuances. But here are the 4 kind of main categories that I see women struggling with in leadership. I want to know from you if you identify with these. So let's go and have a look. The first one is what I call stuck in survive mode, and this is really about it's like the alternative to thriving. So it's if thriving is growing and advancing and flourishing and bearing fruit and maturing and getting bigger and increasing, then stuck in survive mode is kind of like the antipathy of that. It's where you feel like you're not moving forward, you're not progressing, you're not advancing, that you're kind of in the same place and you've been there for a while, and either you're in a prolonged plateau where nothing's good, nothing's bad, it just kind of is going on, just kind of going with the flow, or you're frustrated because you think, I've got so many things I want to do, the clock's ticking, I'm not getting any younger, I'm not as young as I used to be, there's so much more in me, and yet I find myself kind of just staying here, right? So you get it? So that's what stuck in survive mode is really all about, and I see that quite a lot amongst us as women, especially us in our 40s, 50s and beyond, when we think we still have things to do, right? And under-acknowledged. Now, this is a big one for us because I meet women all the time who are just frustrated that they don't seem to be getting the acknowledgement or the respect, or they're not being taken seriously like they know they could or should or want to be. So this is like being overlooked, being ignored, not taken seriously by the people who you want to influence the most. Or it could be that they don't know who you are. They don't know what you stand for. They don't have a clue what you're bringing, or someone else is taking the credit. Like, it is about you not being understood as a valuable asset in the company, you not being understood as a powerful voice in the company, and you want to develop a more powerful presence. You want people to be able to see you for real, hear you for real, and take you seriously for real, right? So this is the struggle that I see many of us are experiencing. The third big area of struggle is what I call personal crisis, and this is where you've got something going on with you, either at at work or at home. Maybe it's your health or your money or your kids or your husband or some other relationship, but you're going through a personal chaotic time or crisis, or you've had some kind of bad news, or just something's not working out for you personally in your personal life or in your professional life, and it's affecting the way you're showing up as a leader. And this is something that I think all of us, I think this one kind of stretches across the 4 areas of struggle. And the 4th area that I've put here is I call powerlessness. And, if I had a penny for every time I sat with a leader who came with a struggle, and when we talk about what she's going to do about it, she would say something like, there's nothing I can do about it, or, feeling like, this is just so big. It's ingrained in the organization. It's bigger than me. It's like a big giant thing, and little old me is powerless to do anything about it. It's like it's an infrastructure issue. It's a high up issue, or it's a big issue that's just ingrained, it's established, and it's not. And little old me is powerless to do anything about it, to make anything different, to tear down that establishment. And so those are the 4 big areas of struggle that I see. So when you listen to me describing those, is any of that relating to you? Is it resonating? Because if it is, that's brilliant, because honestly, me too. I know all of these areas of struggle. I like to be upfront in that this message is not about a magic wand to eliminating the struggle or to getting rid of it, to zap it away. I don't have a magic wand that does that. But here's the thing. I know about a distinction, a leadership element that, like magic, can really translate what it is you're struggling with into more progress, more leadership power, and more leadership presence, and even catapult you into a place of prominence. That this struggle that you go to, just imagine if the struggle that you're going through was a gift, was the fuel that would ignite your next big shift. You see, I've learned that struggles can do one of 2 things. They can either overwhelm and diminish you, deplete you, knock you back, knock you off your feet. Or these struggles can be the very thing that propels you and catapults you and is a springboard for your next growth, your next shift, your next increase, your next big transformative point, your turning point, your tipping point, whatever. You know what I mean? It's struggle can be either of those. And if you're listening to this, it's because I've invited you to come to consider allowing whatever it is that you're struggling with to be a catapult, to be a springboard for your growth, to be a springboard for your evolution, your personal and your professional evolution. And the distinguishing factor, the one that decides which way it's going to go, is what I call show up mastery. It's about how you show up. So let me tell you about show up mastery. I began really understanding, really being called to speak about show up mastery from a very personal place. I was born with a facial disfigurement, and so throughout my childhood, my facial features, my appearance was always a big deal, right? And I spent a lot of time in hospital when I was a child having corrective surgery to my face. And when I was 4 years old, I was gifted with an artificial eye. And this artificial eye was this like plastic shell fit over my disfigured eye, and I wore dark glasses that would hide my scars, right? So I call that the beginning of my life behind the mask. And the reason that I got those was really about helping me to look more normal, helping me to blend into school, blend into my communities, hide my facial flaws. And I don't think anybody back then could have really realized, but what it turned out to be was a very powerful parallel. I learned so much about what you do when things aren't normal, or when things aren't right, when things are broken, or when things are flawed about you. I learned that what you do is you hide them, you see, you suppress them, you depress them, you put them away from public view, you don't let people see. And I didn't know I was learning all that back then. But about 7 years ago, I had this week that I used to call the week from hell. And what happened was it was a year. All right, think about 2009, right? Think about where you were and what was happening. For me, it was a year that Obama was elected president. So it was a really exciting time in the world, because at one point there was the prospect of Hillary Clinton or Obama. That's a woman or a black man going into the White House. Both of these were ludicrous notions, like they were unprecedented. They were just new ideas and new concepts, and it was a really exciting time. And remember, in 2009 also, Michael Jackson died, and so the king of pop was dead, and this was all striking, right? Nobody thought Michael Jackson would die. He was a brilliant man with so much notoriety. He was known all around the world for his gifts and his talents and his brilliant loveliness. And he was dead. And also in 2009, it was the economic crisis. It was official now that we are in recession. And so there was a lot of talk about all of these events happening in 2009. And I found myself in the middle of a very deep and personal, dark funk. I mean, I found the frustrations were growing and growing and growing. Every time I had a conversation with somebody about how fantastic Hillary Clinton or Obama or Michael Jackson was, or how doomed we were because of the recession, or how bad things were going to be getting for us mortal folks, this normal group, was just really irritating me more and more and more. And when I searched my heart to see what was really going on with that, what I realized was I was upset because I didn't want to be in the other category. I didn't feel on the inside of me like I belonged in this other category to those other brilliant people. Now, I feel on the inside that there's this brilliance inside of me too. So the notion, this kind of like suggestion, this covert inference that there were two types of people, these superstar people who did great things, and then there were the others of us. And, even the suggestion that I would fit into the other category, I found to be abhorrent. And I was struggling with it in a way that I noticed myself struggling, thinking, why is this getting to me so much? But it really, really was. I think it's really important to pay attention to what's really getting to you, because I've learned that the power of life works on getting on your nerves. Something really powerfully getting on your nerves can be a real big signal that something's about to shift in your life. So anyway, I digress. Let me go back to 2009, and I was having these conversations and getting myself in the right tears because I didn't want to be in this other category. I wanted to be in this sort of making stuff happen. I didn't want to be Michael Jackson. I didn't want to be Obama. I wanted to be the great Dion Johnson. And I had to admit that there was stuff not showing up in my life. I was doing okay. I had a thriving coaching practice. I had a good stream of clients coming through. I had money. I had property. I had, my life looked like I'd arrived. But in my gut, I knew that I wasn't living. I was punching below my weight. I wasn't experiencing what I wanted, knew I could experience. And so, it was a real frustrating time. And then the Dalai Lama made this statement. He said the world will be saved by the Western woman. And it didn't take long for me to dawn on the truth that I'm the Western woman. That's me. And so, oh my God, 2009 was just a real year of internal inquiry, internal dis-ease, internal struggle. I really struggled in 2009, and then my aunt died. So it was towards the end of the year. Big deal in Jamaican culture. We have people coming over, people that you haven't seen for years, come to the house, drink, eat, celebrate the life of the person that's dead. And I saw Jay, my friend from 19, I don't know when, like when we were younger, and we hadn't seen each other for a long time. And Jay had a son now. He was 10 years old. And so as Jay and I tried to be talking, as we were having a conversation, this little 10-year-old boy was fidgeting and getting in the way of the conversation. And Jay said to him, "Look, what's the matter with you, boy? You're getting in the way of the conversation. Keep still." And then he turned around and he blurted out, I thought really loudly, and he said, "Mum, what's the matter with her face? She's ugly." Oh my God, when he said that, I noticed immediately his words were like a pow, like a punch right here in my heart. And I felt really sore, but something really powerful happened. I noticed how I kind of just absorbed the words, like the pain and the hurt were going on the inside. But for the first time, I noticed how I'd managed to keep my composure on the outside. I didn't show that I was hurt. I didn't show that there was something wrong. I noticed how you couldn't tell by looking how hurt I was. And I noticed that really loud. And I thought, how do I do that? Why am I doing that? Anyway, I absorbed it, carried on talking as though it hadn't happened, but there was a soreness right here. And then the very next day, really the very next day, I was standing in the foyer of my church, and these kids came up behind me, tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and they pointed at my face, and they laughed, and they jeered, and then they ran off, and I stood there, and it was like, again, right in that same place. I thought, what is this? But I couldn't help, the thought of their jeers and their laughs took me right back to the playground, when I was a child without my masks in this playground at school, and just this whole thing started to hurt in a really powerful way, and I could feel the heaviness of it on the inside of me. But of course, I just absorbed it, kept my composure, and carried on. And throughout that week from hell, several things like that kept happening. It's weird. It was spooky. But by the end of that week, it was time for the funeral. And then I lost my glasses. My dark glasses had fallen down the back of the radiator, and we couldn't find them. And I found myself getting into a right tears. I couldn't go to my aunt's funeral. I haven't got my glasses. I haven't got my mask. I can't go out there without that on. My sister said to me, "Don't be stupid, Dion. Of course you got to go to Auntie Tiny's funeral. Here, wear my sunglasses." So I borrowed my sister's sunglasses, but do you know what? I felt really like this sore place was just getting punch after punch after punch, and it was really starting to take its toll. And I noticed that even though I had my sister's sunglasses on, they weren't my glasses, and I felt out of place. I hadn't got my mask on. And so every time somebody looked in my direction, I felt like going like this. "Oh, please don't look at me." I felt like hiding. I felt like withdrawing. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want people to look at me. And I noticed it. I noticed how these feelings and thoughts were going on the inside of me, and how on the outside, I just kept this cool exterior, like no one would be able to look at me and know that that's what was going on. Wow, it was a really powerful time. And by the end of that day, I just, I'd had enough, and I went home and I was really tired. I took my artificial eye out, jumped into my sister's bed, put my artificial eye on the side, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next morning, my sister told me that my niece, who was 3 years old at the time, was playing around the bed where I was sleeping, and she found my artificial eye on the side. Oh my God, it freaked her out. She was freaked. She couldn't get her head around. What do you mean Auntie's eye is on know. What do you mean? Like, Auntie's eye, it's on the side. And it really is like horror movie type thing for this 3-year-old child. And she just couldn't handle it. And when I got up and I went to her, she was curled up in a ball on her bed in the corner, and silent tears rolled down her face. She didn't want to look at me. She didn't want me to touch her. She didn't want to kiss me good morning. We didn't get our usual morning hug. And my heart that had been trampled on, punched on all that week, it was too much, right? And it broke, and I couldn't handle it. I was struggling big time. So what I do when I struggle, I ran off, fell to my knees, put my hands up in the air like this, and I said, God, something's wrong. Something's really hurting me. Something's painful here. And I was in such turmoil. And then it's like I entered into a conversation, and the voice asked me, Dion, so tell me, what is all this covering up about anyway? Why are you hiding? Dion, when are you going to let people see the real you? When are you going to start showing up for real? I'd never asked myself those questions before, but they were coming thick and fast, and I grappled in my pain to find the answers. And eventually, I began to talk back. What do you mean, why am I hiding? What do you mean, why am I covering my face up? Of course I've got to do that. I mean, can you see my face? Can you see? There's something wrong with me. I have to cover this up. It wouldn't be right to just allow people to have to look at this, to see the real me, to have to put up with how I really am. Like, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be nice. It would be cruel to subject people to that, wouldn't it? Well, my God, as I heard these words coming out of my mouth, I was gobsmacked, because I had no clue that that's what I was really thinking about myself. I had no clue that that's what kept me wearing the artificial eye and dark glasses all those years, even though I was aware, sort of, that I hated having to wear it. I hated having to put that thing in my face. It felt like this big add-on. It felt like a big sort of protrusion on my face all the time. And so I wore the dark glasses to kind of stop myself from seeing that. Wow. So I think the real me is offensive. I think the real me is somehow not for human consumption. And that really made a lot of sense, even right there on the floor on my knees. Even then, I started to see how that kind of thinking was creating some really pretty awful results. And perhaps even, I didn't think about, like, retrospectively, I was able to start to see how that kind of thinking about me, that kind of self-perception, was powerful, was creative, was a creative force in my life. I didn't know how long I was on that floor, but when I got up, I'd made a decision that I was going to find a way to show up in my work and in my life, in my world, in my relationships, for real. Right, back then, I thought it was about just showing my face. But since then, I've really understood that this is much more than just unmasking my face. This is about unmasking the truth of me. This is about showing up for real. And so you see how this experience has been a really rich teacher about how important it is to show up. You know, I've learned about why showing up fully and for real is so crucial. I've learned that it's crucial because who we really are is a powerful addition to whatever the mission is meaningful and is intentional and is relevant to whatever it is that the mission is. I've learned that. I've learned a lot about how to begin to locate the masks that people wear, and how the masks that I wear, and begin to remove them. And you know what? When I first started, it was all about artificial eye and dark glasses. But the journey soon revealed to me that I was masking on a whole load of levels. And I began to understand how we mask on all kinds of levels, even people with no facial disfigurement, even people that don't wear glasses. It was not all about physical. In fact, the most powerful masks aren't hiding anything physical. They're hiding inner scars. They're hiding inner thoughts, insights, ideas, creative innovation. They're hiding those things, and that's a real shame, and that's why I do this work. I've learned about the power of showing up for real, the power of what I call radical authenticity. Most of all, I've learned, and today really I want to focus on the consequences of what it would take of what not showing up really means. So let me ask you a question. Do you hide? Do you wear masks? Do you cover up? Do you play small? Do you shrink back? Do you conceal yourself? Do you depress and suppress aspects of who you really are? Because if you do, I really want you to consider that there are consequences. When leaders are hidden, when leaders are in pain, when leaders are covered up, when leaders are masking, when they're compelled to hide aspects of themselves, it often goes with pain, and it often goes with ineffective leadership. It goes with a reluctance to step up, to put yourself forward. When we think that something's wrong with us, then we think something's wrong with our ideas, something's wrong with what we think, something's wrong with what we want, something's wrong with what we value. And all those I think I'm wrong ideas really does affect the way that we lead. It affects what we say yes to, it affects what we say no to, it affects how we show up, it affects how we perform at the table. And so that's why I'm really powerfully connected to teaching and sharing this idea about show up mastery. So what about you? Do you wear masks? Do you hide? Do you cover up? Do you conceal? It's time to develop show up mastery. And show up mastery is a term that I've been using for the last couple of months now as a signature title for the work that I've been doing in my own life, and also with women who lead all around the world. And so what I've realized and learned about wearing masks, what I've realized and understood about showing up for real, what I've realized and learned about what it takes to be the real you, especially in the struggle. Because here's the thing, it's not hard to be comfortably you when you're loved, or when they love you, when you love them, and everybody's happy. But the thing is, when it's difficult, when it's in leadership, when there's a struggle, when there's a conflict, when there's an issue, when there's a challenge, now that's when we really need leaders stepping up. That's when we really need women who are in the room discussing the challenge, discussing the mission. That's when we really need you to speak up, find your voice, find your insights, say what you think, show yourself, be seen, be heard, and be taken seriously. And that's why it's time to develop Show Up Mastery. It's a series of 7 commitments that facilitate radical authenticity, facilitate you showing up for real, facilitate you being present and being powerful in your presence as a leader and a woman and a change maker. And it's also, those 7 commitments work together with a stream of what I call power leader questions. And but there are 3 parts to Show Up Mastery, and I want to share them with you today. So the 3 parts of Show Up Mastery are show up. And really what this is about is showing up. in order to show up, you have to know who you are. You have to be, it's all about authenticity, you see. And my definition of authenticity is that who you are in thought and word and deed are in alignment with truth and love. Let me say that again. Authenticity is when who you are in your thoughts, who you are in your words, and who you are in your deeds is fully aligned with truth and love. So if the thoughts that you're thinking about you, if your self-perception is out of alignment with the truth about you, then that's not authenticity. If what you are saying or saying out loud or to yourself about you is not in alignment with truth or is not loving, then it's not authenticity. If what you're doing is not in alignment with truth and it's not loving, it's not authenticity. So in order to show up, we need to be really clear about who we are in truth and how we show up in love. And oftentimes, we're just so disconnected from that. I call it the authenticity gap, that who you really are in truth and in love is so unlike who you're being in the moment. And so showing up has got two really big keys. It's about studying who you are, finding the truth about you, facing and embracing the truth about you. And it's about being her wherever you go, whoever you're speaking with, whatever you're doing, whatever the mission, whoever you're talking to, no matter how much of a struggle there is. It's about determining to bring her to the table. Okay, so I'm just thinking about what to share with you now about show up. So a really brilliant power leader question to help you to show up is, who the heck are you? I know that lots of people really don't ever ask themselves that question. But if you want to commit and develop show up mastery, it's time to ask that, It's time to begin to study who you are and what you're about and what you think about you. It's time to study what you say to yourself. Is what you say to yourself in line with truth? And is it loving? Is how you feel about yourself good? When I didn't know until that week from hell started to unwind and unfold as I ventured, after making the decision that I was going to learn how to show up for real, I had to start to do this work. I had to start to look at, who do I say that I am? So I'm asking you, who do you say that you are? And what do you think about yourself? And is it loving? I found out that I call myself ugly. I call myself unlovable. Now that's not in line with truth and it's not in line with love. I've learned that subsequently, but I had to face it first. And that's the work of this commitment to show up. It's like studying you and then comparing who the true you is with who you've been being. So oftentimes, the way that we're showing up is so different to the real us. And there's all kinds of things I could tell you about this, but it really boils down to, the real me isn't good enough. The real me isn't appropriate. The real me is offensive. The real me isn't what it takes, isn't what they want, isn't valued, isn't valuable, all those are what I call BFDLs, big, fat, dirty lies. And so this whole, if you commit to showing up, you commit to studying who you really are in truth and in love, and you commit to being her in truth and in love wherever you go, whatever you're doing, especially in leadership and especially in the struggle. Powerful, powerful stuff. I really want to talk to you more about that. And if you do want to talk more about that, then we can, let's just, there's a link accompanying this training. Just click it and we will get on the call and start drilling into some of this stuff. Okay, the second part of Show Up Mastery is that you need to speak up. You see, you really need to know what you want to say. Oftentimes, the women that I meet in leadership don't speak up because they haven't really formulated their ideas properly, or they're worried about how other people will take their ideas. So there's a couple of things around this. The first is that you need to get clear. You need to be prepared. You need to think about what you want to say. Think about what your life's about. Think about the lessons that you've learned. Think about what your unique, valuable insights are, and what your message is, what you have to offer, what you're bringing to the table. Because that's really powerful when you begin to formulate this idea, become passionate about something. Oftentimes we're just going with the flow so often that we've just forgotten about who we really are, what makes us unique, what's our signature message. Like, this is something that I really encourage my clients to think about, and especially in 4 areas: about your story, about how your story, your unique story, lends itself to the mission, what you've learned, the insights that you've gained. I'm sharing with you right now, my work is peppered, like everything about my work is peppered with my experience of knowing myself to be ugly and unlovable, having a different face, and then learning how that's my most powerful asset. And so that's the kind of journey that I'm encouraging you to consider, that, thinking about what makes you you, behind the mask and in front of the mask. What have you learned? What have you come here with? Who are you born as? All that makes you you. What's your story? And how did your story impacts the mission? Very powerful. And if you start to think about that in terms of 4 ways: your story, your identity, what you've learned by being you, that's your unique, valuable insight, and who you want to influence, who needs to know what you know, how does what you know make a difference to the organization or to your team or to your industry, and how are you sharing what you know with them? It's really powerful, because oftentimes that's not happening. It could be anybody sitting in that position that you hold, because you're not making it yours. You're not influencing in a way that's unique to you. And you need to think about that. And then think about impact. Think about what you see the real problems are. See, oftentimes in our industries, the real problem goes unaddressed. The real problem goes unaddressed because the people who can really see what the real problem is aren't addressing it, aren't vocal about it, aren't sharing what they understand, what they can see. And so the usual established ways of dealing, of functioning within that organization or within that department just continues, but it's completely missing the real problem. So the question is, what's your understanding of the real problem? And what's your commitment to looking at real challenges from your perspective and thinking about what the solution could be? Really challenging as a leader. You can't be thinking this way. You can't be operating this way as a leader and not putting your head above the parapet, not standing out. And those are things that I find we really struggle with behind the mask, is how to keep our organizations on its toes by airing what we see the real problems are and what the real impact needs to be. And being vocal about when it's not happening. So, identity, your story; influence, who needs to know what you know; and impact, what really needs to change. Those are very powerful questions. What really needs to change? What's my story, and how does it relate to the mission? And who do I need to be telling? Who do I need to share my insights with? How are they hearing what I know? How is what I know contributing to the conversation about the solutions that we need? And then 3, what's the real problems here? What do I see as the real problem? And how is my being here impacting on the real issues? Powerful. The 4th is, the fourth pillar of this is inheritance. This is about building your legacy. This is about sharing, recording, capturing your ideas and your insights and your message and your story so that it can be passed on to other generations, either your successor, people who take over from you when you're ready to move on, or the next generation of leaders, or the next developers that are coming up behind you, or creatives, or the team members, or just your industry, or another industry that could benefit from understanding what's going on from your perspective. We need to be thinking about the fact that we are here as instruments of world change. That if we're in this position of leadership, we are instruments of world change, and that's very powerful. And oftentimes we go to our grave, we retire, we move on without leaving something for people to build on. And I'm suggesting that you consider that if you really want to develop Show Up Mastery. Ooh. So what do I know? Here's a power leader question about inheritance. What do I know that can be a shoulder for the next generation to build upon, like to stand on, to what can I leave that will inspire the next level of development and evolution of this? Powerful. So the next bit is shaking it up, and we've really started to touch on it when we talked about inheritance and about what really needs to change. You see, all of the stuff that you do when you speak up is really about shaking things up in your industry. It's really about finding your voice and disrupting when things are not working. I speak with so many women who just go along with the status quo because they don't want to rock the boat, they don't want to disrupt, they don't want to be seen as a troublemaker, they don't want to be seen as the bitch, the geezer bloke, the aggressor. They want to just keep things peaceful and get paid and go home, and they don't feel like they've got what it takes to really make things different. So they just back down. There's this saying, this meme that I saw recently, not so recently, that said, if you think you're too small to make a difference, then you obviously haven't spent a night with a mosquito. And you know what? You're powerful, and you're in that position because that organization needs who you are and what you know to grow. And so this shaking it the hell up, I like to say, is about our role as women in leadership to understand that we're there in our womanly feminine core to be alongside the masculine in the caretaking, in the nurturing aspect of the organization and of the impact that the organization is having in the world that we're about to hand over to the next generation. The impact that this organization and the things that are going on in our department, the things that are going on in our industry even, how the impact of that is affecting the world that we're going to grow old in. We need to shake the hell out of that. We need to be looking for what's not working. We need to be looking for, with our conscious heart, at how our actions as an organization and as an industry is impacting on the world, the people in it, life. Because you know what? It's our call as women to be, and I know that lots of us don't want to hear this, but it's our call to be alongside the masculine, taking care of the life, bringing new life into situations, dark situations, bringing light into dark situations, bringing life into dead situations, nurturing, giving life, sustaining life. Those are all feminine calls, responsibilities. And you know what? I think that we used to do it really well and effectively from the kitchen sink and from the bedroom and from the home. But it's time for us to bring that call, because of the changes in this world. Our 21st century world is so different now that we can't just be in the home. We have to be taking that responsibility seriously, and migrate into the marketplace, where the influence about how our world is shaping up is most powerful. So whether you're leading in science and technology, whether you're leading in business, or whether you're leading in education or government, or if you're leading in family, health and well-being, if you're leading whichever domain of the marketplace, in the media, in the arts, in the leisure industry, whichever area you are leading in, that's a domain, and you have the power to, in your position of leadership, to shake it the hell up, to make it reflect the world that you want to grow old in, the world that you want to hand over to the next generation, whether it be the next generation of leaders, whether it be the next generation of children, whether we want our world to be a better place, and we as women, our place in the marketplace is about that. It's about that. Our position there is about taking up our positions to oversee the way our world is shaping up, and speaking up and shaking up the bits that we don't want to see in our world. So those are the 3 areas of Show Up Mastery. A power leader question for Shake It Up is, what am I going to do about what's not working? What do I have to offer to what I can see not working? It's a challenge, I know. But here's the thing. In your struggle will be clues about how you answer all of those questions. In your struggle, there will be, your struggle has come to reveal a part of you, teach you something for these very 3 things. Your struggle has come to impart unto you what you need to show up, speak up, and shake it the hell up. It's come to draw out what you've learned from your past. Draw out what was in you when you arrived on the planet. The gifts and the talents and the things that you don't even know are there. And it's about your own evolution, your own growth, your own movement through level after level of maturing and thriving and movement and increase and progress. So the more you show up and speak up and shake it up now, the more you become able to show up, speak up, and shake it up now. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but honestly, it really matters how you show up. So I guess my question to you now is, are you showing up fully and for real? How are you showing up? So if 0 were, do you know what, I'm not showing up at all. I'm not being myself. I don't even know who myself is. I don't know what the truth about me is. And I don't know how to be her. Then that's a 0. And if you never wear masks, you don't hide, you're not playing small, you're always consistently, unwaveringly, unmaskedly, that's a word, showing yourself, being yourself in truth and in love, then that's a 10. So if I asked you on that scale, where are you? What would you say? What would you say? Think about that for a minute. And then ask yourself, well, what's in the gap? What's stopping you? Where are you struggling to be you? Where are you struggling to show up fully? Are you struggling to show up fully in leadership? Are you masking? Are you hiding? Are you playing small? Are you not speaking up? Are you speaking badly to yourself? Are you calling yourself ugly and unlovable, or stupid, or not appropriate, or a fraud? Or, how are you speaking to yourself? How do you see yourself? These are really powerful questions to measure how you're showing up and really facing it head on. Okay, here's another question. What's not showing up fully and for real costing you? What's the cost to you? What's the cost to your industry, the people that are waiting on you for the solution that you are born to bring, have the potential to bring to the marketplace? What's it costing you not showing up? What's it costing us if you don't show up? What's it costing the people that you serve, the people that you lead? Think about that for a minute. And then ask what needs to happen for you to begin to close what I call your authenticity gap. How you begin to shrink that space, the gap between who you really are and how you're showing up, and how you close the gap so that they become one and the same. What needs to happen? Well, I'd love to hear. I'd love to support you to ask those questions and answer them. I'd love to support you to get on the case, to shrink, to close, to close your own authenticity gap, and to master the art of showing up for real, to develop show up mastery. I hope this is speaking to you. And if it is, then click the link that accompanies this video and schedule yourself in some time for you and I to talk. I'm really excited about what you take from this message, how you begin to implement it, and then how we build on that in our conversation that you book through the link on this page. Take care.